Before lights, camera, and action, you have to start with the location. These are the top 10 movie sets ever built. Kicking us off at number 10, things always seem to get crazy when Hollywood decides to throw water into the picture. And for sets, that might be Hook's 30,000 square foot Pirate Wharf, or Pirates of the Caribbean's Port Royal, or the Goonies' Inferno, a beautiful 105-foot long underground ship. But for our number 10, it doesn't get much crazier than the Atoll from Waterworld.
We are safe behind this wall! Aren't we?
Dennis Gassner's massive $22 million, 1,000-ton behemoth of a set, a quarter-mile around, used up every single bit of steel in the whole state of Hawaii. Most of the sequences were shot next to the shore, rotating the atoll around so that the camera was always pointed out towards the ocean. But eventually, they towed the entire thing out to sea to shoot the 360 shots. But with all the steel and money and size, they forgot one thing: bathrooms. So they had to stop shooting and bring in a ferry every time anyone had to poop. Now, Waterworld's atoll was pretty big, but it's got nothing on our number 9, which could be Rear Window's city block that famously wasn't tall enough for Hitchcock, so they ripped out the floor and built into the studio's basement, or The Last of the Mohicans' Fort William Henry. It could even be The Matrix Reloaded's mile-long highway set, but for our number 9, we've got to give it to Batman's 4.1 million square foot Gotham City.
What are you laughing at?
That's right, we said million. And you can thank designer Anton Furst for the unique architecture of this entire world. Furst actually went out of his way to make the city the ugliest metropolis imaginable. The set itself took up 18 whole sound stages and nearly all of the 95-acre backlot at Pinewood Studios, ultimately becoming the largest, most oppressive fake city ever committed to film. Of course, Gotham doesn't have the monopoly on big city sets. Back in the golden age of Hollywood, a slew of historical epics led to some sets of epic proportions. There was Intolerance's Great Wall of Babylon, a 300-foot-tall colossus that cost nearly $2.5 million in 1916 dollars, and the Pharaoh's City from the Ten Commandments, a set that people thought was destroyed until archaeologists dug it up in the California desert. There was Ben-Hur's Chariot Arena that took a year to carve from stone, or even the fall of the Roman Empire's Forum, the largest outdoor set ever built at the time. But if we're giving slots to the Roman Forum, Cleopatra's takes the cake.
Nothing like this has come into Rome since Romulus and Remus.
Allegedly twice the size of the original Forum and even more expensive, they eventually built the damn thing twice. Once in London and then again in Rome after the first one got ruined and Elizabeth Taylor got sick from the cold. Unfortunately, Rome was just as cold as London, and the whole production nearly bankrupted 20th Century Fox, but at least we got this awesome set out of it. Of course, bigger isn't always better. Size isn't everything. It's not the scale of the ship, it's the motion of the ocean. Penis jokes. I'm making penis jokes. And just like penises, sometimes the best sets are the smallest ones, or at least that's what we like to tell ourselves. So for our number 7, we turn to beautiful miniatures, like Harry Potter's Hogwarts, the Snow Fortress from Inception, Manhattan from Escape from New York, any of the miniature sets from King Kong, and especially some of the gorgeous world building from The Lord of the Rings, including the still enormous at 1/72nd scale Minas Tirith. However, for our pick, we have to hand it to the gorgeous futurist-inspired city from Fritz Lang's Metropolis. Estimated at 60,000 square feet at miniature scale, Metropolis City is the originator, the innovator, the OG futuristic city ever created. It had it all: planes, trains, and automobiles along a highway crisscrossed skyscape of epic proportions. They even placed live-action extras on the miniature set with nothing more than the clever use of mirrors, carefully scraped into the exact size and shape of the set. In keeping with our less is more mantra, we're stripping it down even further to the sets that manage to be brilliant in their simplicity rather than their scale or intricacy. So for our number 6, we want to give our pick to set minimalism. Because is the quality of a set really determined by how big or bulky or even beautiful it is? Or is it perhaps in how it helps the filmmakers tell a good story? So for as far as minimal sets go, we first have to tip our caps to Buried, and the entire film shot in a single wooden coffin, which were actually 7 different coffins with a variety of different sizes and missing walls. But when it comes to minimalism, nothing can possibly stand up to the beautiful simplicity of Lars von Trier's Dogville and the bare white painted outlines that made up its town.
This is the sad tale of the township of Dogville. The residents of Dogville were good, honest folks, and they liked their township.
Lars has always been a bit of a maverick, so for Dogville he repurposed a Brechtian technique more often found in black box theater, simultaneously stripped away the artifice while pointing a finger at it. With the distractions all gone, all that was left was just humans and their emotions. Of course, not all sets exist in the physical world, so for our number 5 pick, we're diving into the world of digital architecture. Sure, The Hobbit's Goblin Town was filled with some less than impressive cartoon villains, but the set itself was wonderful. And what about the armory from Tron, or Gladiator's massive Colosseum, or practically every single set from Sin City? There's the home tree from Avatar, the hot gates from 300, and the giant trash pile that was Earth for WALL-E, all intricately crafted, designed, and built with pixels instead of plywood. But for our number 5 pick, we have to give it to none other than the massive digital creation of Bricksburg for the Lego Movie.
Good morning, apartment. Ready to start the day.
The entire film was built from actual, physically available Lego bricks by the 3D modelers at a massive scale in Lego's Digital Designer, imported into Maya and then textured, lit, animated, and rendered. And when we say built, we don't mean sketched in out of faraway 3D cubes that they faked as Legos, we mean brick by brick. And while we don't think it's quite fair that these guys pretty much got paid to play with toys, we love the worlds they created with them. For number 4, let's take a look at some of the massive fantasy worlds production designers have been asked to create. Designers like John Barry and Dennis Gassner created worlds like Tatooine and Spectre in places like Tunisia and Alabama, where they still eerily sit in disuse today. But if it's an entire town you want, look no further than Grant Major's Hobbiton from Lord of the Rings. After spotting the perfect Shire-like location from a helicopter, a 9-month set build began at this former and actually still current sheep farm. Landscaping, bridge building, and 37 different hobbit holes decorate this city of a set. And when they wanted an extra oak tree, they just chopped one down, carted it in, and decorated it with fake leaves. Today, it's a major tourist attraction, but back in 1999, it was a visionary example of a fantasy world brought to life. Counting down to number 3, we want to take a look at some of the crazy things happening on the European side of the world. Hans Polzig designed an entire lopsided expressionist city in a Berlin studio for Der Golem, and Sergei Ivanov set a crew of 400 to the task of recreating the Battle of Stalingrad down to the smallest detail. But for our pick, we're going with the awesomely absurd and actually pretty creepy set of the yet unreleased Dao. The director, Ilya Kurzanovsky, which is not easy to pronounce and most likely mispronounced right here, created a beautiful recreation of 50s Moscow, about 2 football fields in size and 5 stories tall, and populated it with an entire city full of extras, all dressing, behaving, and talking exactly like their characters. Whether the cameras were rolling or not, whether they were in the scene or not, whether they were even in the cast, every day for 3 years. He would find people who used unapproved language, fire people who aggravated him, and use his power and money to seduce the women around him, which probably makes him more of a megalomaniacal totalitarian dictator than a film director. Dao is almost too weird to describe, but we have to give it some hesitant, morally ambiguous props to the man who built an entire fascist state for the sake of art. Closing in at number 2, rooms and buildings are nice, but what about the designers who have built some honest-to-goodness goddamn vehicles? There's Pirates of the Caribbean's Black Pearl, and the full-scale Titanic that was built on a 50-foot tilting platform. There's Snowpiercer's gorgeous gimbal-mounted 100-meter replica train, and the Empire Strikes Back's Millennium Falcon. But for our number 2, there's nothing more awesome than the titular vessel from Apollo 13.
Houston, we are go for launch.
Hollywood has always used a variety of tricks for weightlessness. CGI, green screens, and wire work are the name of the game, but Ron Howard wanted the real thing. Now, he couldn't quite build a set in space yet, but he did the next best fix. Designer Michael Korenblith built the entirety of Apollo set inside NASA's Vomit Comet, a real-deal passenger plane that flew parabolic arcs to achieve zero gravity 25 seconds at a time. At 2 flights a day and 40 arcs per flight, the cast and crew made 612 total zero-G dives and, thanks to this set, spent nearly 4 hours actually weightless. And finally, securing our number 1 slot, what the hell can best actual zero gravity? Maybe it's some of Chris Nolan's insanity, like an entire hospital for The Dark Knight only to just blow it up, or the massive hallway set of Inception that actually spun. No, these 2 just missed our list, but there's one set that's even crazier still, the deep core underwater platform from The Abyss.
Hey, how deep's the drop-off here?
Here's a bottomless pit, baby. 2.5 miles.
Designer Leslie Dilley and director James Cameron built an honest-to-goodness diving platform in a 7 million-gallon tank and an abandoned nuclear plant. filled it with water, and shot the entire movie underneath. That's right, the entire movie was made between 30 and 50 feet underwater by a 26-person diving crew. This set went through everything, leaks so big that dam builders had to repair them, lightning strikes, algae infestations, chlorine burns, emotional breakdowns, and electrical blackouts. It was an absolutely insane endeavor, the adventure of a lifetime and massive feat of engineering, which is why we think it's the best movie set ever built. So what do you think? Did we leave out one of your favorite movie sets? Do you disagree with one of our choices? Got any ideas for our next list? Let us know in the comments below, and be sure to subscribe for more Cinefix movie lists.